Chapter 7, Scientism on its Heels. Bill Nye invites flat earthers to drive to the edge of the earth. Is scientism circling the wagons? In April of 2017, Bill Nye did a flurry of PR, including doubling down on April 19th, 2017 by co-authoring an article entitled How to Shut Down Flat Earthers According to Bill Nye on Inverse.com, and doing a radio interview on the Elvis Duran show, which aired same day, wherein Nye says, quote, "Hey, flat earth people, I tell you what, get a car, rent a car, and drive to the edge of the earth. Send us some pictures," end quote. This is hilarious for a few reasons. First off, cars can't go to Antarctica. Only boats and planes can. So suggesting the rental of a vehicle to inspect the so-called edge is inherently implausible, rather ludicrous. Secondly, exploration further south than the 66th degree of southern latitude is monitored by the United Nations and the teeth of the Antarctic Peace Treaty, signed December 1st, 1959, just a few years after the formation of NASA. So, essentially, Bill implies by this, flat earthers should rent a car, turn it into a boat, drive through a region monitored by an international navy, get into Antarctica, then simply convert the boat back to a car, turn it into a snowmobile, and then continue driving across the snow to the edge of the earth. And when they get there, pull out their camera, take some photos, find a Wi-Fi connection, and then send those pictures over to him. So in the article he chirps, quote, "Snap a photo at the edge," end quote, "come back and," quote, "post it on the internet," quote, "while they wait," end quote. Though Bill Nye didn't mention Antarctica or the no-fly zone, these must be part of a journey. These must necessarily be part of a journey to the theoretical edge, which everyone knows, if it exists, would be some distance southward. Bill's invitation seems to imply a friendly disposition towards such an exploration. Does that then mean his cohorts at NASA seeking to colonize Mars may be happy to grant a South Barren charter to navigate beyond the 66th line of latitude as a sovereign vessel in pursuit of this illusory edge? If so, we'll wait. In the same article, Nye points out that, quote, "Anti-vaxxers, chemtrail enthusiasts, and NASA moon landing conspirators are notoriously difficult to engage with in rational dialogue, but the flat earthers are arguably the most difficult to debate with because their claims are so wildly off base," end quote. Just the fact that Bill Nye would co-author an article which mentions NASA moon landing conspirators, chemtrail enthusiasts, and anti-vaxxers is unprecedented. Simply mentioning anti-vaxxers and NASA moon landing conspirators as less wildly off base than flat earthers gives some credit to the truther components that moved many people into flat earth. So, research into vaccinations and the moon landings, the latter mentioned in a previous chapter, are well-known gateway truther drugs. In an onslaught of scientism PR, Nye mentioned on an interview on NPR on April 22nd, 2017, that he was concerned that the march would look like a political party. Well, good reason for such concerns, for scientism functions as a political party. Interestingly, the incredibly dark and seemingly overly satanic artist Tyler, the Creator of Odd Future, did the title track for Bill Nye Saves the World, and is a self-professed longtime fan. What a strangely fitting alliance. This promo on Tyler's YouTube between the two of them is kind of awkward. Interesting. Link expired. No longer works. Despite atheists in a full-court press to save their positioning, enlisting young rap phenoms and putting out Netflix specials, flat earthers are now being referenced by The Science Guy as notoriously difficult to debate with. However, the only skills of debate he showed on his radio appearance were ad hominem attack. He made fun of a woman for saying "like" too much.
The earth is flat?
Yeah,
Let's talk about that.
Believe this.
Hey, flat earth people, if you're out there, I tell you what, get a car, rent a car, and drive to the edge of the earth. Send us some pictures.
Yeah. Don't fall Well, there are theories. The
Just
theory is that you can't because the walls of Antarctica, etc., are so high that you can't get. I've listened to
we're living in a
podcasts
bowl, is what they're saying.
This is what that they can't. You couldn't actually hit it like you'd hit a wall. This is
Okay, so here's my concern.
Not that I believe this, by the way. But
you couldn't actually hit it. You'd hit like a wall. Okay, so I'm very sympathetic to that point of view, but what would be better is get in a spacecraft and look down. Wow.
Instead of replying to her question directly, referencing a vehicle that could never achieve what he asked you to do with it, rent a car and drive to the edge of the Earth. And if not that, obtaining a position in a space agency to go up and look for yourself. Just for the record, on either side of this overall Earth-shaped debate, it doesn't seem that anyone rationally questions that a journey southward beyond the lines of the Antarctic Treaty would be what was necessary in order to investigate the existence of a theoretical edge, and that everybody knows you can't take a rental car there. Yet later on in the show, Bill returned to the same point about driving to the edge, despite the fact that one of the hosts had already rebutted him with a question about access to Antarctica only 4 minutes prior. He answered a caller named Froggy by saying, "Here's our goal in science is that you don't have to take anybody's word for it, that you can run a test yourself and determine that the Earth is round. Try driving to the edge. Let's start with that."
Bill, I had often started to believe that with Shaq saying the world was flat, but I'm going to guess that you are slightly more intelligent and slightly more qualified to let us know that the world is not flat and that it is in fact round. So I believe you.
Okay, well,
we're voting for you.
Here's our goal in science: is you don't have
Yes.
to take anybody's word for it. That you can run tests yourself and determine that the Earth is round. Try driving to the edge. Let's start with that.
Right. Or get in a spaceship and take a look down. Like
That's
you
a
said.
good one. Or
Right.
look at the position of objects in the night sky, and
Right.
so on. And so, you'll find that it's much more reasonable that the Earth is round than it's
Right.
flat. And our objective in science is to discover truths in nature that everybody can prove for him or herself.
Here's our goal in science is that you don't have to take anybody's word for it, that you can run a test yourself and determine that the Earth is round. Try driving to the edge. Let's start with that. It's like he's running computer software that doesn't update or something. If it's all about a test we can do for ourselves, why are you asking us to rent a car and drive to the edge when only boats and planes go to Antarctica? How is that every man's repeatable science? Isn't asking the young lady to go up into space and look down tantamount to asking her to take an astronaut's word for it? Don't the very 2 points he enumerated, get a car or go up in space, run contrary to the goal he purports his science aspires to? That of not having to take anybody's word for it. That of a kind of test which one could do for themselves. When he had initially replied to the argument against being able to drive to the edge, he did so, as mentioned, with ad hominem attack, literally by making fun of the woman's verbiage, and impersonated her while saying, "Okay, so my concern, you couldn't actually hit it, you'd hit like a wall," end quote. And that instead of addressing her point about the physical barrier Antarctica poses, he switched his tact and says, "I'm very sympathetical to that point of view, but what would be better is to get in a spacecraft and look down." Wow. So instead of discussing the issue raised, he just asked her to become an astronaut and get in a rocket that goes into space. Seems kind of evasive, doesn't it? Tucker Carlson gives Bill Nye a good dressing down on settled science, which is nice.
Look, here's the point that I hope our viewers can understand. I'm not in any way denying that the climate is changing. I'm utterly open to the possibility that the change is caused by man's activity. I'm merely calling into question your claim that all of this is settled, that we know precisely what is happening and why, and that anyone who asks pointed questions about it is a denier and ought to be imprisoned or shouted off the stage.
No, that was your word. That's you guys. That's not my claim, and I really.
Would you like me to read your quote that people who disagree with you ought to potentially go to jail? You said that.
Okay.
And I'm just saying,
I'm not sure that's
skepticism
exactly what I
baked
said,
into
Mr. Carlson.
science?
We can talk about that shortly, but.
Is it appropriate to jail the
this.
guys from Enron? Was it appropriate to jail the people in the cigarette industry who promised it wasn't addictive, et cetera?
Okay.
Look, my only point is, shouldn't we be encouraging people to ask honest questions, which I am doing, and you don't seem to have the answers to those questions.
Okay, parasites.
You're using the language of politics. Look, you're not a scientist, as you know. You're a popularizer,
I'm
and I
using
just
the
think, and
language
that's
of
fine.
economics.
But
So
I'm just saying,
you
look,
asked what it would
to the
be
extent
like
that you
without
prevent
human
people.
effect. Okay,
If you
ask
prevent
what it would be
people from
like?
having an honest conversation, you're doing a grave disservice to science. Don't you think that? Right.
because of climate change. That's how
So
the
much
world
of
would
this
be
you
different
don't
if it
know.
weren't for
You
humans.
pretend that you know, but you don't know, and you
gotta
bully
disagree
people
with you,
who
sir.
ask
I
you
really
questions.
have to disagree with you.
Well,
This is what that they can't. You couldn't actually hit it like you'd hit a wall. This is
Okay,
the
so
thing.
here's my concern.
Not that I believe this, by the way. But
You couldn't actually hit it. You'd hit like a wall.
Spent a lot of time with this topic.
I'm open-minded. You are not, and we're out of time, unfortunately.
So,
Thank you for joining us.
With respect to actually going to the edge, I can think of a few wealthy flat earthers, possibly someone like Kyrie Irving, who makes $17.64 million per NBA season, who might charter a flight southward beyond the 66th line of latitude. As long as we're on the topic of chartering flights, it would be far easier to go due east-west along the Tropic of Capricorn to prove a significantly larger circumference at 23.5 degrees below the equator than 23.5 degrees above the equator at the Tropic of Cancer. My conjecture is that the circumnavigational distance due east-west along the Tropic of Capricorn would be appreciably larger than the 25,000 miles at the equator, and to such a degree that the mere 26 miles of oblateness and the, quote, height of Mount Everest above sea level of pear-shapedness attributed to the southern hemisphere would be a far cry from accounting for it. Before we duck out of this scientism chapter, let's take a moment to consider how one could debunk an astrophysicist. Astrophysicist Neil Tyson tweeted out last year to rapper B.O.B. that Polaris is, quote, gone by 1.5 degrees south latitude, end quote. 1 degree of the Earth's circumference is approximately 70 miles, so 1.5 degrees equals about 105 miles. Some flat Earth theorists claim Polaris can be seen from as far south as the Tropic of Capricorn at 23.5 degrees. That's 1,645 miles below the equator. So this is a huge discrepancy. Others claim that the, quote, Southern Cross can be seen from as far north as 23.5 north latitude. So if this be the case, the tweet below from Tyson's Twitter account stands to be debunked. It reads, @BobATL, Polaris is gone by 1.5 degrees south latitude. You've never been south of Earth's equator, or if so, you've never looked up. 7:54 a.m., 25th of January, 2016. 3,100 retweets, 6,000 likes. But until we have conclusive proof of an image of Polaris from 1.5 degrees south latitude or lower, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, etc., we have no evidence to prove Tyson's claim is inaccurate. So furthermore, the disappearance of Polaris from a particular degree of southern latitude doesn't guarantee a globe or flat model, as either can account for the effect if the stars are much closer than we've suspected. With that said, timestamp video footage of Polaris from sea level at or below 1.5 degrees south latitude would debunk the world's leading astrophysicist's claim that the Earth's curve occludes Polaris from view at that point on the map. I can go on record saying that well-known flat earther Eric Dubé claims Polaris is observable from as far south as the Tropic of Capricorn. So that's 23.5 degrees south latitude. I don't have proof he has made that claim. So flat earthers located in Peru, Brazil, Tanzania, or Indonesia, you are in a prime position to debunk an astrophysicist. I'd recommend including in the video of Polaris a geotagged lat-long reading from a phone that gets powered up on camera, and including a reading from an altimeter to indicate altitude, which would ideally be sea level. Below is a chart of cities beginning at 2 degrees south latitude or more that are in perfect latitudinal position to possibly debunk Mr. Tyson's claim. You know, basically cities in Ecuador, Tanzania, Brazil, Indonesia, Burundi, Peru, Republic of Congo, Kenya, Seychelles, Democratic Republic of Congo, Tanzania. So some of the names are Jayapura, which as we've mentioned before, Zanzibar City, Guayaquil, Ecuador, Mwanza, Tanzania, São Luís, Brazil, Jayapura, Indonesia, Palembang, Indonesia, Sobral, Brazil. All of these are about 3 degrees, 4 degrees, or 5 degrees. Zanzibar City, Tanzania is at 6 degrees. Generally speaking, anything from Ecuador or lower in South America, anything in sub-Saharan Africa, and anything in Indonesia or lower would all make the case. That means you, Ecuador, Brazil, Tanzania, and Indonesia, Bandung, Consider this the first Flat Earth challenge. I eagerly await someone lower than 1.5 South Lat to show me proof of an ability to see Polaris. More recently, on April 21st, 2017, Astro actor Neil Tyson tweets again, this time to no one and everyone in particular, basically that it's cool to think the Earth is flat so long as you don't work for NASA. He wrote concerned that flat earthers don't, quote, ascend to the head of NASA, end quote. Honestly, Neil, do you think flat earthers are seeking gainful employment with NASA? Even for a smart guy like you, that's well beyond low Earth orbit. End of chapter 7. PVTX. Venice, yeah. Who's the one, the breath of sun? Sun is dreaming like the drip, liquid gift on the mic like it's a spliff. When you drink water, who you practice, who you talk to. 1 to 4 to feet, the flip, the grip that breaks the door, the sands of time rolls through the sands, recess the mind, mind's mind, mirror minds, look through mirrors, find, redesign the way I express my intricateness, finding through the fitness of agility with the gift of witness to the presence of the moment, feel the breath of home, and in the truth, the one that runs, the ones that spit, like you, the crew to walk, the crew to talk, to give him pounds and dats, the cats that bless the mats, the bats are bars of golden mean, that's the meaning forward, wanna breathe it, press it, feel it toward, press it, feel it toward you, toward true, toward the motion that we move, like the color blues in my veins. Comes a doozy. That we move is in my veins. Chapter 8. Flat Earth PhD hoax in Tunisia. Planted PhD paper. A witch hunt out of University of Suffolk.